It's really hard to have self-compassion and to be kind to ourselves. We hear so often three pretty big refrains. First, people tend to do better when we're being hard on them or mean to them. Tough love kind of approach. That's the first thing we hear. The second thing we often hear is that people are afraid to be kind to themselves because they think, well, I don't either deserve it or maybe I screwed up, so I need to beat on myself so I never make that mistake again. So that's the second one, I deserve the pain. And then the third one is, even when people want to be kind to ourselves, we often have a really big issue doing so because we don't know what that self-compassion actually looks like in action. Hi, my name is Ria and I'm the founder of Hope Forge, and today I am going to walk you through 3 different ways of being more kind and compassionate to yourself. So first, why is self-compassion really important? Being compassionate to yourself does not mean that you're always being easy on yourself and you're not holding yourself accountable. It means that you are not constantly tearing at yourself, undermining yourself, and you're looking at yourself with a level of support and love. And this is important because there is a lot of research out there that demonstrates that the more negative feedback we receive and the more punishment we get, the less likely we are to be motivated to continue with various actions. And you see this in a lot of kids at very young ages. If they start to get ragged on, then they'll start to disconnect from the things that they were doing, to even adults where we throw up our hands and we basically say, what's even the point? And so although a tough love approach can seem to work in particular circumstances, there's a difference between tough love, where you're being tough and still loving yourself in your head, and just being tough and mean. And so what self-compassion is it helps us to have love for ourselves and be compassionate with ourselves, and then choose whether or not we want to take tough tactics or kinder tactics. So the first thing that we need to do when we are trying to improve our self-compassion and our self-kindness is to look at ourselves with kindness and care and support versus self-judgment. And so what this looks like is, let's say we screwed up. I know I make mistakes all the time. The number of times that I apologize to people, including friends of my partner, I can't remember because I have a bad case of foot and mouth, face and wall disease. And I think that's pretty normal. A lot of us, we put ourselves out there, and a lot of times when you put yourselves out there, you walk right into a wall and make a mistake. It's part of being human. Part of being human is also growing from those mistakes. So let's say we made a mistake and we unintentionally hurt or insulted someone. There is a difference between looking at your actions and saying, God, I really hurt this person, and I am so sad and sorry about that, and that was not a good act, and I am going to work to improve so that I don't hurt that person in that way again. And you can be kind to yourself and say, I know that I meant well and I had good intentions, and that didn't come out the right way, but I can act in ways so that my internal self and my intentions and feelings are translated into the world and for other people. And this is important because you're looking and you're holding yourself accountable, but you're also recognizing what your intentions were, and you're saying, I can improve upon this and I can be truer to myself now that I've learned that I sort of stumbled and fell. Now, the opposite side of this is, you hurt someone. Let's say you hurt someone and they tell you this, and your immediate response is not, oh crap, I did a garbage thing, but shit, I am a garbage human being and I am worthless. Do you see the difference? Instead of holding your actions up to a particular light, when you are self-judging versus being self-kind, what you're doing is you are taking whatever issue is in front of you and you are making it into a referendum on your value as a person. And then you keep telling yourself that and you're buying into it. So the first step is to not do that. Even if you make a mistake, your humanity does not mean that you are automatically a dumpster fire. Maybe you accidentally set a dumpster fire, but that does not mean that you are yourself at a walking dumpster fire in addition to the dumpster fire next to you, right? There is a difference. And one of the great things about people is we can grow, learn, and change. So looking at your actions and your potential future actions versus you being solely defined by this one thing. So that's the first step. The second step is to engage in humanity and community and not isolate. So one of the things that we do when we are very hurt or scared or wounded is a lot of us tend to go into a cave and lick our wounds. I know this is actually something that I had a very bad habit of doing when I was in high school and in college. I would basically go into my cavern of solitude, sort of like Batman, and I would hulk down, maybe not in the total dark, but I would definitely be in lower lighting, and I would listen to incredibly sad songs by bands that understood my pain and how I just was a train wreck. And I would more and more be by myself until maybe a friend or loved one banged on my door and got my butt out of there, right? The thing is we can't always count on our loved ones to intercede for us. And when we isolate ourselves, what we actually do is we strengthen all of these negative feelings and we create echo chambers within our minds and our emotions. So everything we're thinking and feeling becomes stronger and stronger and stronger because we are isolated and captured within it. So what you need to do is experience common humanity with people who understand where you're coming from. So for example, let's say you are someone who's had a miscarriage recently and you're in a great deal of pain because our culture it pushes back against us talking about miscarriages. And you feel isolated and alone and potentially even responsible because you're judging yourself. What you can do is reach out to groups of parents who have recently lost children through miscarriages and find a community of people who understand what you're feeling. So you don't necessarily have to reach out to just anyone, especially if you are going through something emotionally and you are struggling with self-compassion. Going to the people who really know what your struggle is like and who can immediately be there and support you, those are the people that you want to reach out to. So instead of isolating, connect. And then the final step to improving your self-compassion is to focus on being more mindful versus over-identifying and overindulging in your emotions. So you remember my story about how I used to go into my room, whether it was dorm room or otherwise, and be in my cave of sadness and wallow and hide? The more that you over-identify with your negative emotions and with the refrains that you keep having going in your head about how maybe you're a bad person or maybe you're weak or maybe you're not capable, the more that you will not only believe these refrains and these feelings and these thoughts, but the more that you will feel them. And actually, the more they will construct how you interact with reality and frame your mind. So you can't overindulge or wallow in these emotions because they will become this perpetual motion machine of negativity and pain, right? The other thing you can't do is shut away your emotions and put them in a nice little box so that they never come back again, because just like Pandora's box, that shit will open, sometimes at the worst possible time, and if you haven't dealt with it and recognized it, then it is going to lay you low. So mindfulness is the practice of looking at your feelings and thoughts and recognizing them and taking ownership of them and then letting them pass you by and not over connecting with them, but also not boxing them up. So for example, if you are feeling grief, taking the example of a miscarriage or potentially someone you love passing or the loss of a job, and you are feeling grief and rage and all kinds of things from this traumatic and dramatic change in your life, it is not only okay to feel and recognize all of these feelings, but it is good to say, I have these feelings and they are real, and to let them wash through you, but then to not really cling to them, to not feel like you have to keep plumbing them, but instead say, this is going, I feel it, I see it, It exists, and I will keep moving even though it exists. So it is there, and you put it to the side of you. So it's not in a box, but it's also not, linked to you, almost like you're jacked into it. And then you keep going. And when those emotions and thoughts come back, because they always do, feel them, recognize them, and then when they're done, put them to the side and keep going. So again, the 3 ways that you can improve your self-compassion are: be self-kind and not self-judgmental. So maybe you made an action that created a dumpster fire. That does not mean you're a dumpster fire. Number 1. Number 2, do not isolate, engage with other people. So don't go into your cave of sadness. Instead, reach out to people who have experienced things similar to you. And number 3, what you want to do instead of over-identifying and connecting with your emotions is to instead be mindful and recognize them and feel them, and then put them to the side and keep walking after you have engaged with them. Don't keep tapping into them like, some kind of drug hit. I certainly have done that, where sometimes it felt so good to be so sad and miserable. We don't want to do that. Feel your feelings and then keep moving. And if you are struggling with maintaining a positive mindset, please check out the link below. I have a free ebook on 15 science-backed ways to flip your mindset. So I will talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in.